That committee was totally rigged, and I didn't mind going to prison.
I brought a copy tonight. Here it is, the Constitution. Can I read a passage to you? Amendment 22. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's... Maybe you should have this.
I'll get you to sign it backstage and underline.
I will.
President Trump didn't bring up running for a third term. Myself and others brought up running for a third term. President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
Okay, but the thing I just read in there, it seemed like there was no wriggle room there. It seemed like it was just, 8 or 10 words that said only 2 times.
We have a team of people that are working. A team.
How can a team do something about that? What? I don't care if the team is 12 trillion people. The words are still the words.
Bill, every day in federal courts, right now in federal courts, there's 120 lawsuits on what President Trump's doing for his Article 2 rights on the unified executive theory. But he's chief executive, he's commander-in-chief, and he's chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer. There's 100, and they're running to court every day to sue President Trump, all because the interpretation of this. The interpretation of this is open for interpretation.
How could it be open? Could I have it back? How could it? I'm sorry to be... No person... you would agree he's a person. Okay, shall be elected. He was elected to the office. That's the office of the president more than twice. Twice is once and then another time.
That was Steve Bannon speaking with Bill Maher, with Bannon virtually guaranteeing that Trump is going to run in 2028, which of course is met by ridicule from the audience. And that's why I want to discuss this, because while I obviously understand the reaction of laughing and mocking Steve Bannon, I think that doing so puts us at a strategic disadvantage, because let's be clear, I don't think he's joking, and I really don't think that he thinks he's joking. And look, my job here is to balance what's a legitimate threat with what I think is a distraction. Trump and his mouthpieces are very good at the art of distraction. And by the way, he's got good reason to distract right now. Stock market is in correction territory, 401ks are plummeting, costs are surging, this trade war is a disaster, the economy is set to contract this year, and consumer sentiment is in the toilet. Let's not pretend that poor economic conditions aren't fatal to a presidency or to a political party's success. But the other side of this coin is that oftentimes Trump and his mouthpieces like Bannon repeat these insane, dangerous, autocratic ideals expressly to be able to normalize them. The goal is to say it enough, to broadcast it in broad daylight so frequently that it loses its shock value. That's half the battle. They're starting now, not even 100 days into their second term, the work of normalizing this idea so that 3 years from now, it won't feel all that crazy. After all, we've heard it so many times, right? Again, my job is to try and parse out what's worth talking about and what's not. I believe that this is something that's worth talking about, not only because we need to steel ourselves for the fight that's coming, but also because it is a testament to just how dangerous this person is. If you are a Republican or an independent or a non-voter, this claim by Donald Trump and his mouthpieces like Steve Bannon that he can run for a third term is a testament to exactly who he is, how un-American he is, and his disdain for democracy. Opposing this person doesn't make you some radical leftist. Frankly, it makes you a good American. And let's be clear, lest you think that this was some fluke claim by Bannon, it's not. Here he is reiterating this exact line of thinking just a couple of weeks back during an interview with Chris Cuomo.
I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say, but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence, doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. You know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue, because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to get a straight take on where your head is. What are you
We've
suggesting?
had, Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. When we supported President Trump after the election, I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 was stolen. We do. We fervently believe that. When President Trump went back to Mar-a-Lago on January 20th, 2021, he was the longest of long shots to return to the White House. We said that day in our podcast and doubled down, having President Trump's back, that he was coming back not just to win the primary, he would win the White House, and we had to get organized and drive that victory, and also start working on all the policies, what's called Project 2025 or the America First Policy Institute, but all those different think tanks that started putting in the policies that you're seeing today in what we call Flood the Zone or Days of Thunder or however you want to describe it. But this is many years in the making. So we've had greater long shots than Trump 2028, and we've got a lot of stuff we're working on there. We're not prepared to talk about it publicly, but in a couple of months, I think we will be.
In fact, it's not just his mouthpieces. Trump himself is making these same claims. In a recent interview with NBC News, Trump suggested that he would run for a third term, saying that there would be methods for doing so and clarifying that he was, quote, not joking. A lot of people want me to do it, but I basically tell them we have a long way to go. You know, it's very early in the administration. I'm focused on the current. When asked whether he wanted another term, the president responded, I like working. I'm not joking, Trump said when asked to clarify, but I'm not. It is far too early to think about it. When asked whether he's been presented with plans to allow him to seek a third term, Trump said, there are methods which you could do it. NBC News asked about a possible scenario in which Vice President J.D. Vance would run for office and then pass the role to Trump, but there are others too, Trump added. Asked to share another method, Trump simply responded, no. In fact, Trump himself has echoed this exact claim. I'm going to show you some clips here which you might have previously felt were jokes because that's how they've been presented, but keep in mind Trump's clarification from the NBC News article when asked that he is, quote, not joking.
We've got it really rocking. We're looking good. We're looking good for another 4 years, and then we got to And what I'm saying, perhaps a certain group of reporters that say we're looking good for another 4 years, and then if we want to, another 4, maybe another 9. And they go crazy. Just watch out, Bill Maher. He goes and looks at somebody like that. He goes, you know he's going to win, don't you? To some idiot that he's interviewing. He says, you know he's going to win. No, I think you know he's going to win. And you know he's not leaving, don't you? The guy's going, what do you mean? He's not leaving. He's not leaving yet. And I thought he was kidding. He's being serious. So, did anybody ever see the Time magazine? Well, we have it 2020, 2024, 2028, 2032. In other words, we do that to drive them freaking crazy.
And any Republican president ever, not even close. Almost 40% of the vote. Now, I won't be happy the next time. Should I run again? You tell me. There's your controversy right there. There's your controversy. Thank you. You'll be seeing that you're going to see that tonight, Tim, on television. The fact that they say I can't run again, that's the expression, sir. Then somebody said, I don't think you can. Oh.
And do not delude yourself into thinking that the spineless band of hangers-on in the Republican Party aren't already on board. Republican Congressman Andy Ogles has taken the cake, having just introduced an amendment to the Constitution to allow Donald Trump to run for a third term in office. The resolution introduced would amend the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, which currently limits presidents to 2 terms. And I should note, too, we saw this coming. Just days after the 2024 election, Congressman Daniel Goldman, a Democrat from New York, introduced a resolution to reaffirm Congress's support for the 22nd Amendment, which again limits the president to just 2 terms. That resolution was designed to get Republicans on record in support of it because it was so utterly predictable that Republicans were going to attempt something exactly like this. And what did Mike Johnson do? Refused to even let it go for a vote. I asked Congressman Dan Goldman for his response to Andy Ogles' resolution. He said, quote, by now, Donald Trump's pattern is predictable. Joke about something unconstitutional or authoritarian, normalize the joke, allow sycophantic Republicans to adopt the joke as a serious idea until it becomes MAGA orthodoxy. Representative Ogles has followed the playbook perfectly by proposing a constitutional amendment to allow Trump to serve a third term. While I'm grateful that he acknowledges that a third term would require a constitutional amendment, nothing Donald Trump says or does is funny. So let's talk about the legality of what Trump is seeking. First off, Ogle's amendment is nakedly unconstitutional. Period. Full stop. Second, there is not enough support to amend the Constitution, for which you need a 2/3 majority vote in both the House and the Senate, then ratification by 3/4 of the states. So any legal route is not happening. Period. Full stop. But third, and most importantly, none of that means that Republicans still won't try. Remember, presidential immunity isn't in the Constitution either. And guess what? Republicans, with the help of their judges on the court, created it out of whole cloth. Also, barring insurrectionists from running for federal office again is in the Constitution, and yet again, with the help of their judges on the court, they eliminated that provision entirely, meaning we ignore this at our own peril. We give Republicans the benefit of the doubt at our own peril. They are telling us their plan. Our job is to believe them, to not allow them to normalize this, and to fight back using every single tool we have at our disposal.